Hello, ladies, gentlemen, NBs, anything else that may not be covered by those three terms. Welcome to the Lost Woods Draft League Season 3. This is going to be my first video of the season. Um, Coming off of top 8 from last season, I'm eager to win it all this time, at least in my division, the Miraidon division, which is what I'm going to be covering in today's video. You might see around me some things have changed. I have less hair on my head. I have more hair on my face. I'm married, and I live in a new place. Wonderful. With that out of the way, we have 14 teams in the Miraidon division. We have Alex, the coach of the 413ers, Lunosverse 1413X. Pengi, the coach of the Zurich Samazentas. Undead Paradox, Doxy, Liam, coach of the Northern Noiverns. Uh, the real Theo, I believe. The realist Theo. And the Beantown Binacles. Myself and the Boston Blackjacks. Ronald with the Waltham Watchhogs. You know what? I'm just going to go this way. ZL with the Ottawa Oshawotts. Darkhelm, our friend Patrick, with the... Oh gosh. You know what? I'll do it this way. Very professional, as always. In the Guaynabo Golurks, KC Cora Corrosion, with Area 151, Big Oog, formerly known as Ivan, with the Slow Bros. Rockwell, a blog with the Good Guy Gudras, Curry Puff with the Cursed Curry Stuntisks, Stout Gaming with the Alexandria Arcanines, and last but not least, Keon with the Massachusetts Mareeps. So today, it's going to be a probably, hopefully, quick, probably not, tier list video of these teams going into week 1, starting off at week 0, of course. So this is all speculative. Not speculative, but based entirely on what I see. So, as always, just my opinion. Hopefully I don't make anybody too upset. Just going to be giving my honest opinions. So let's first take a look at Alex's team. So Alex drafted in an order of Sneasler, Dragonite, King Gambit, Gothitelle, Electabuzz, Basculegion Female, Granbull, Cinderace, Lurantis, and Orthworm. So the first thing I see on this team, obviously, sorry, I didn't put the points here, and I'm not going to. But it's very top-heavy roster, I think everyone knows. 2019 and 19 for the first 3 picks, almost 58 points, almost 60, which is over half of your budget on those alone. But didn't finish out too weak either, with Gothitelle able to trap things, set Trick Room. Electabuzz, Basculegion Female can hit decently hard. Granbull for a solid Intimidator and a Fairy type. Cinderace is a fast-hitting Fire type. Lurantis and whatever. So truly my first impression of this team is that it looks like its heavy hitters can hit pretty hard. However, and something I will go over right now, this season's format is Regulation H, meaning no legendaries, no paradoxes, no restricteds. I think those are the bans. And self-imposed rule for us this season is there's no Terra available. You cannot terrastalize your Pokemon, meaning Terra Blast becomes just a normal 80 base power special move, and your Pokemon's types, what you see, what you get. So this Sneasler, always going to be a poison fighting type. Dragonite, always a dragon flying, etc. These 3 types each have a 4 times weakness, and they're no slouches on offense by any means. 120 attack, 134 attack, 135 attack. Or 130 attack, my bad. 120 speed. This is a hard-hitting physical team. Cinderace is included in that. Granbull can even hit pretty hard. But with those weaknesses that you can't terrastalize out of, it's going to be tricky. People are easily going to be able to tech ice moves, dragon moves, psychic moves on their teams to abuse those top threats. And you can't go Terra Fairy. You can't go Terra Dark to get same type attack bonus on a dark move and actually hit a dark type. Um, you know, King Gambit's not going to be able to get out of its really, really bad defensive typing. Um, and last but not least, Dragonite is stuck with its best physical flying option being, I think, Aerial Ace. I don't think it gets dual Wing Beat. Um, so, really unfortunate in my eyes. King Gambit's going to lack that coverage that Terra Blast gives it, so is Dragonite. And Dragonite, a Pokemon that's so expensive because it was so reliant on Terrestrialization. Terrestrialization is what made Dragonite so good, with those Terra Normal E-Speeds, with those Terra Flying, Terra Blasts, and just not having access to those. I think these are real bank breakers. Um, and then the end of this line just not looking super duper strong. I think all of these Pokemon can be abused in some way. I don't think Cinderace can get the one-hit KOs that it wants. And Libero is a shell of its former self from last generation. Back when I was using Cinderace in Sword and Shield, and it could Dynamax or Gigantamax even, and switch types every single turn, it was a menace. But here, not going to get that same value. Granbull I do like as a pick. I think it gets some good coverage. It's decent bulk. But overall, pretty slow. Team does have Trick Room, and it does have Tailwind, one setter each. Not great pivots, but, the Fire Water Grass Core is not the bulkiest. The what's known as Fantasy Core is relatively strong, but King Gambit just doesn't feel like that bulky steel type that you want. For that reason, I'm debating between B and C. I'm going to go with B here. It still has some strong threats, and, Gothitelle being a Pokemon that's not going to let you just, switch around your Pokemon, you're going to be forced in against these big Pokemon, and it's going to be tough. Next is Pengi Stefan. And having known Stefan, and we actually met through doing a draft league back in Sword and Shield. I think it was the X9 draft league with Joe UX9 as the host, featuring some VGC creators back then before the big boom. And we were both helping Rosemary Kelly, Necra, his now fiance. Shoutouts to them. We helped her with her team a lot. We were both in the back office, and it was a lot of fun. And instantly I see, I think, 2 or 3 Pokemon that were definitely on that squad. I definitely remember using Hippowdon. I think we might have had Excadrill. Rotom Wash seems familiar, but might not have been there. Goldengo being his first draft pick was something I could have spotted a mile away. I would have bet my life savings on it. Very, very solid team. There are some shortcomings that I'll shout out. But his main mode of this Goldengo and Clefable is extraordinary. Goldengo, one of those Pokemon that doesn't want to deal with, Sucker Punch or Dark-type moves at all, and Clefable just eats those for breakfast. These two paired with each other are going to be a bread and butter for his team. Porygon 2 for speed control in Trick Room, and Fletchinder being a discount Talonflame. Talonflame was an expensive pick, but all you need is that priority Tailwind, and Fletchinder's going to get that job done. So I think a very good pick there. Scrafty has Intimidate and Fake Out. I think that's the only Fake Out on the team and the only Intimidate. Totally fine. Scrafty's a strong Pokemon. Goldengo, just incredible. Porygon 2, another one of those Pokemon that might suffer from not being able to Terrastalize. But I think, it's been a Pokemon that was able to work in Dynamax. It was able to work in Z-move formats. In Draft, I'm not sure. But he has the support to handle it. Clefable can follow me and redirect the only thing it's weak to. It shouldn't be too big a deal. Excadrill and Hippowdon with that Sandrush mode. Rotom Wash with the Levitate can sit next to Excadrill and Hippowdon and just Disquake. And Excadrill, even with Mold Breaker, is a terrific pick for draft. Say you're playing Mimikyu or something, you can just Mold Breaker Ironhead and it's off the field. You don't even have to worry about Disguise. I don't think anyone picked Mimikyu, but that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. Kleavor's an interesting pick. I think defensively it's bad. Offensively it's not great. Um, but it has the moves that it wants. Sharpness boosted moves are no slouch. That's what I gotta say about that. Scrafty, phenomenal pick, one of my old favorites back from like when I started in 2014, 2015. Great intimidator, great fake out user, has some good support moves, and can set up wins on its own because it is offensively pretty decent. Hippowdon, another Pokemon that can win games by itself. You better watch out for that stockpile set that it might be running to get +3 defense and then just stall you out. I could even run Fissure. Altaria as like an anti-weather Pokemon, possibly support. It gets like Will-O-Wisp. I think it might get Perish Song, Tailwind. Chestnut, a Pokemon I drafted last season but wasn't vibing with, mostly because I already had Rillaboom. But looks probably pretty good on his team. Great setup, great defense. Inflection Dirt, really all I have to say is Gale Wings, Tailwind, yay. The shortcoming I do see with this team, or shortcomings, is the cores aren't the greatest in my eyes. Your grass type is Chestnut, which is for a grass type. Your Rotom Wash, it's okay. Rotom Wash just leaves a bit to be desired defensively nowadays in my eyes. And then Fire type Fletchinder, that's hardly a Pokemon. And then your Dragon being Altaria, it's just not great in my eyes. It's not threatening offense or big defense. Like, the other thing is, without Terra, Golden Go is susceptible to some big hits. And then there's a few 4x weaknesses that would be abusable, notably Scrafty, anything can just tech Dazzling Gleam. Altaria, I mean, yeah, you can tech an Ice move, but are you going to tech it just for Altaria? And Chestnut is going to go down to any flying move, not that those are common. But overall, pretty solid types. Again, the defensive cores are what I'm concerned about. So looking at this team on paper, I would put it in an A tier. Knowing how Stefan plays and all that, who's piloting it, that could bump it up to an S tier. However, I'm going to go purely based on just objectively what I see in front of me. This looks like an A tier team to me. Just because of that kind of lack of bulk. I think a lot of this team can be abused, and a lot hinges on Golden Go getting a lot done, as well as Excadrill. So going to be reliant on some Pokemon doing some heavy lifting. Next is Undead Paradox, Doxy, Liam, Northern Noivern. What do I see? I see a very fast team, as well as a very slow team. And I think Liam did a good job managing their speeds. You have the fastest Pokemon in the format that can actually damage Dragapult. Yang Chao being pretty quick, great fake out user, great coaching user, and gets some mean coverage and I would say 2 pretty solid abilities. Reckless not being nearly as good in doubles. Weavile as another great fake out user that, you can't scoff at the damage output. Toxtricity, I'm iffy on Toxtricity. I think its stat line leaves a lot to be desired. Plus, it's only really doing one thing, which is spamming its sound moves. Tinkaton, not a Pokemon I love. Slowking, great pick in my eyes. I think 10 was a very, very good discount for this Pokemon. Gliscor, ground and flying, obviously has been a tried and true typing since Landorus came on the scene, and I think Gliscor can definitely take advantage pretty well. A returning Pokemon to this team from last year. I think Slowking is as well, unless it was Galarian Slowking, but I think it was normal Slowking. Let's skip over Sentret. Skeledirge, Snorlax, both relatively slow Pokemon that can get moving with some setup, like Curse, with like Torque Song, and Sentret, the brilliant 1-point pick for just a Focus Sash, follow me Pokemon. And Frisk, it's a great ability for draft where we're closed team sheet. Um, my issues with this team, again, there's some really bad weaknesses. Ice Move and Gliscor, Toxtricity Ground, Weavile Fighting. This team leaves a lot to be desired in terms of bulk for the most part. There are some Pokemon that have terrific bulk, like Slowking, Skeledirge, and Snorlax. But those Pokemon all have to come together in order to really work. So you have some fast hitters, you have some bulky Pokemon. I don't dislike this team, but it's not leaving me like wowed. I don't think it has a lot of breaking potential. On top of that, I think Dragapult as what a 19 pick in the first. I don't think Dragapult has what it needs right now. Without Terra, it has no reliable physical ghost attack. It can use Phantom Force, but you can play around Phantom Force so easily with a normal type in back, with a dark type in back, with redirection. Not having something like Terra Ghost, Terra Blast, or even Terra Dragon, Dragon Darts makes Dragapult very, very weak comparatively. I think the two times we saw Dragapult good were with Terra Steel, Terra Blast, and Terra Ghost, Terra Blast. And not having that is a big hit to Dragapult. Um, Dragapult to me doesn't make up a defensive Pokemon for the Dragon Core. Tinkaton is that Steel and Fairy typing, which is the best typing in the game. Almost definitely, I would say maybe first or second best. And the big problem is it doesn't do a lot of damage. We've seen clips upon clips upon clips on Twitter of Gigaton Hammer or Playrough just doing no damage because this thing has a 75 base attack. It has the best typing in the game, one of the best moves in the game, but they knew what they were doing. They gave it stats that wouldn't be too good. So another... What do I do with this? I think it has a decent Trick Room option. You can get Tailwind off with Gliscor, but the fast Pokemon don't need to go much faster. Maybe Toxtricity wants to. I think this team will get some wins, but overall, I don't see this team breaking through a lot of others. I do think Skeledirge is good. Snorlax is obviously amazing, and Slowking. Like, those are the highlights for me. Are those three. Just those big, bulky Pokemon that can do different things. But Skeledirge, even then, I'm not sure. I'm putting this one in the B tier. And then I'm pausing my recording to go to the bathroom. I'm back. It took a while, but I'm back. I'm probably going to miss part of Colby Monday. But anyways, yeah. Northern Noivern. B tier. I don't see a lot of synergies. There's like a beat up Pokemon on this, maybe, because you do have two beat up users. But I'm just not seeing it. I don't think it's bad. The Real Theo is next. Okay. Okay. This is an interesting team, by which I mean I see so many good, cool Pokemon, but just not a lot of synergies I understand. And the biggest thing is I don't think there's redirection. There's no fake out, rather, there's no follow me, and there's no rage powder. Which makes Azumarill something that's going to be a tough pick if you want to set up something like Belly Drum. You do have both Tailwind and Trick Room. I clicked those in the wrong order. And I also see actually a lot of Pokemon that don't need their abilities. So I think Weezing Galar is a pretty good pick, and it makes Slacking obviously usable. But it also means, like, Garchomp, Rough Skin, not very necessary. Hisuian Typhlosion, if it's Frisk or Blaze, if it's in Blaze range, it's probably dead already. And once it's frisked, it's done. Kilowattrel, competitive won't activate unless Intimidate comes out, probably. Um, Hitmontop, once it's intimidated, that's it. Um, like, I see a lot of these that don't need their ability, so I think Galarian Weezing's very interesting. You can also run Levitate if you want to Earthquake next to it. Let's go over the cores real quick. Our Boliva, Hisuian Typhlosion, Azumarill, and then we have Garchomp, Azumarill, Magnezone. My issue with these cores is that, well, the Dragon Fairy Steel has 2 with 4 times weaknesses. Um, I also didn't think Gothorite is the best Trick Room setter, as you can probably tell. I mean, it's not doing much less than Gothitelle in terms of shadow tagging and getting up Trick Room. In fact, it's probably better at it with Eviolite. But Kilowattrel, pretty frail. Like, this team doesn't have major bulk. Yeah, we have an average 80 in HP, with like slacking being cheating because it's slacking. I don't. Oh my god, I don't understand this Sneasel pick at all. There's 2 fake outs, 1 intimidate. I don't know. I don't. None of these Pokemon scream to me like, oh my god, they're gonna break my entire team and I'm gonna lose to them. I think it has some Pokemon that work pretty linearly once you figure out Azumarill's item. I mean, Azumarill has a lot of options. Hisuian Typhlosion pretty much has one set. It's going to be Eruption. Kilowattrel is going to be going for Tailwind. Hitmontop, it has coverage moves, but it's going to be that Intimidate Fake Out user pretty much every time. I don't like our Boliva. I think it can hit pretty hard, but it's so slow, and like, even then, I don't think it has setup other than growth. It's just not very reliable. And Grass and Normal for offensive typings are pretty weak. Normal typing doesn't aid it in any way, like it does something like Ursaluna, where Normal is just gonna rip through everything, and then Ground type covers the Steel types and the Rock types that can wall it. Here, no. Magnezone, I don't like Magnezone. It's not a Steel type. It doesn't feel like a good Steel type. Like, it's not that bulky. It doesn't do what a lot of Steel types can do. Yeah, it's just not bulky enough. It's strong. It can hit hard, but not much else. I think there's potential here. I don't know how Theo plays. There's definitely quite a bit to prep for, but I just feel the team is a bit underwhelming in my eyes. Next up is me. And I'm going to be honest with myself this time. I drafted with... Oh, wait, let me go back. Yeah, no Terra doesn't hurt this team too much. I think all these Pokemon can work without Terra. Like, obviously, Garchomp has that 4x weak, but it always had that, and it's always been a dominant force in VGC for the past however long we've been playing VGC. Yeah, I don't think no Terra really hurts this team too much. My team, I'm not going to go into it too much. I'm going to go with an A tier. Reason being, I think there could be a bit more synergy. I think all the Pokemon are very, very good. I think the team is cohesive. But I personally was a little upset with how all the Pokemon mesh together. And I still haven't... I want to make that work. I've been wanting to do pickups and such. But yeah. Also, my fastest Pokemon is 95 base speed. I don't have anything over 100. And I have 1 Tail Room, 1 Trick Room. I don't know. Last season, I mean, I had something above 100, and it was cool. Ronald. This team's scary. I'm early. I'm early rating it and then explaining. This is an S tier team. Um, I will admit I did help Ronald with the draft of some of these. He was directly after me or before me, depending on the snake order. So we talked to make sure we didn't take each other's picks. Um, he helped me out a bit with some of my picks. I helped him out with some of his picks. Notably, I think like the last 5 actually, I had a hand in helping him pick. Um, so yeah, at a first glance, this is a rain team. At first glance, if you want to believe this is a rain team, go ahead. This is not a rain team. This is not beholden to playing rain. This is a Mousehold team with Archaladon, with Hisuian Samurott, with Armarouge, with Hisuian Decidueye, with 2 Tailwind options, 2 Trick Room options, a Follow Me user, an Intimidate Pokemon that can also Swift Swim, one of the hardest hitting Pokemon in the game, another extremely hard hitting Pokemon with triple arrows, Armarouge, which can do so many different things, Florges with Symbiosis, which can pass Pokemon that have spent their items like Archaladon Power Herb, Armarouge Power Herb, um, I think that's about as far as it goes in terms of Power Herbs. A hidden Psy Spam mode with Prankster Psychic Terrain and Armarouge. Hisuian Electrode being able to just be its own speed control if it wants. Also being able to Bullet Seed Archaladon and get up stamina. Mousehold can set up Archaladon stamina. There is so much on this team to prep for. And again, it's not a rain team. If Pelipper and Arch want to come, and Samurott wants to come, and Overcoil wants to come, great. But you can also just run like Armarouge, Decidueye, Trick Room, and just dunk on them. It's crazy. I will say this team is lacking a bit in the bulk department. Its speeds are very good. Just looking at these averages here, it doesn't have a ton of immediate. No, it does have a lot of immediate offense. Armarouge is immediate offense. Hisuian Samurott doesn't have a high stat, but sharpness just makes it basically a choice band Pokemon at all times. These two were great steals. This is just a Hisuian team. Look at this. 4 Pokemon bred in Hisui. I think this team has a lot more options than it leads on. And the fact that he was able to draft this and some of these Pokemon went so late is shocking to me. The Fire, Water, Grass, well, there's double water, double grass. So, like, you have a fast grass type that's basically not a grass type and a bulkier grass type. You have your fire type in Armarouge, and you have 2 water types. Pelipper's not a really good water type. Hisuian Samurott is. Archaladon is this guy. The one thing I will say, in terms of bad, is there's 1 fairy resist on this team. And because Archaladon doesn't resist it, Overquill doesn't resist it, Armarouge does. But at the same time, Overquill and Archaladon can do so much against fairy types that it shouldn't be a real issue unless the teams just get well positioned. And Meowstic can do so many different things. There's a lot to prep for on this team. It's going to be very hard to prep against. And even if you think you're cheeky and you're going to run Sunny Day or something, great. It might not even be a rain team. And Meowstic could just prankster rain dance in your face. So, good luck with that. ZL and their team of the Ottawa Oshawots. This is the first time I think I'm just going to say I don't like this team. I don't see what this team wants to do. I think it does have one of the strongest Pokemon. Even in Draft League, this Pokemon doesn't need Terra. It doesn't need a lot of options. It just needs to click its moves, and you're going to get destroyed. There's good redirection in Vivian. There's a great Trick Room user in Farigiraf. There's 2 great Fake Out Mons, 2 solid Intimidators. Your Fire, Water, Grass. I mean, you have Basculegion, Tauros, good. Shiftry and Thwacky, eh. Hydreigon, and then you have no Steel type, no Fairy type. Iffy on typings. Um, it can work with Tailwind. It does have a lot of Tailwind options, actually. And one Trick Room option. A decent redirection in Vivian, but if you sat safety goggles on, you're not going to have a good time. But it does have those fake out options, as well as can't be faked out on its own. I think this team lacks a lot of key resistances. Um, Notably, I think you have one fairy resist in Salazzle. Yep. You have one fairy resist in Salazzle, and yeah, not looking great there. Um, this team's going to be heavily reliant on Ursaluna, and possibly sweeping with Basculegion, but there's not even a rain option on this team or a Prankster rain setter. I don't even know if any Pokemon. I mean, I'm sure something on this team learns Rain Dance cheekily, but no. This is my first D tier. I don't see the vision here. There are some nasty 4x weaknesses that I've already discussed, and just not a lot of offense. Not a ton of great bulk. You have Ursaluna is solid bulk, but wants to be offensive and lacks special defense. Fergaraf is decently bulky, and Basculegion is not bulky despite its 120 HP stat. This Pokemon, or this team, is going to get tossed around offensively, and I don't think it has the offense to make up for it immediately. That's my take. Alright, next up is Patrick's team. Guainobo? I remember the Guai part. Guainobo Golurks. So, unlike Ronald's team, which is a not rain team, this is very much a sun team. And I think my biggest problem with this is the huge amount of type overlap. You have 1, 2, 3 fire types. You have 1, 2, 3 ground types. You have 1, 2 grass types. 2 psychic types. A lot of overlap. No fairy type. No dragon type. No water type. No electric type. No ice type is fine. I think this team is very easy to prep for, personally. Notably because you have all these fire types, a grass type that wants to put you to sleep. If you rock a fire type with safety goggles, you're pretty set. The one thing I will say is, yes, there is type overlap with the grounds. You kind of need that to handle opposing fire types. And even then, I mean, it's going to be tough to get those activated, because you need Trick Room up to get those moving. And if you can just take out Bronzong, it doesn't look good. All these Pokemon are pretty strong on paper. Hisui and Braviary I'm not a big fan of, especially on a Sun team. Like, you're not going to be able to just run, like, Sheer Force Hurricane or something. You can run Tinted Lens. But no Terra for Volcarona is really, really bad. Anyone's just going to Tech Rock Slide onto their team. No Terra for Hyperior. Even worse, anyone can just run a Water or a Grass-type move. I know that's hard into a Sun team, but it can just be teched onto something. Yeah. I don't have a lot more to say here. The redirection is Amoonguss, again, handled by safety goggles. There is no Fake Out user on this team. There's no Haze user on this team. Not a lot of pivots. If you don't have the tools to handle this, it will be hard to beat. But I feel like every team is going to have something to handle this, and I really, unfortunately, have to put this in F tier. Next up is KC Korra Corrosion, and they drafted a banger of a team. After taking my advice and just drafting Incineroar off the bat, they built a fantastic team around it. Fire, Water, Grass in Sinistcha, Palafin, Incineroar. And then you have Goodra Hisui with Dragon and Steel, plus your Fairy type is Gardevoir. Not bad, not bad. There are a couple things I don't like about that. Um, I'm as good a typing this is, Steel and Dragon. My biggest qualm with it is that it will never resist Fairy. Your Fairy resist on this team is Wheezing. Incineroar doesn't, as good as it is, doesn't resist it. Wheezing is just not the Pokemon you want to be resisting a normally special typing. Um, Additionally, Gardevoir, as your Fairy, does not resist Dark. However, you do have 2 Dark types, one of which actually has a defensive backbone. Um, Literally. Um, there are a lot of smart picks on this team. I love this core, and I love how much this team can pivot. You have Volt Switching Jolteon, you have Flip Turn Palafin, you have U-Turn and Parting Shot, you have U-Turn, you have U-Turn. So getting Palafin into Palafin mode is going to be good. However, let's revisit No Terra. Incineroar is always going to be amazing. Sinistcha is going to be great. Palafin does have a lot of type coverage options, surprisingly. Um, yeah. I don't think No Terra hurts this team a ton, but I do think some of it's going to be underwhelming without Terra. Notably Palafin. Um, and without a Rain Setter, Palafin's also going to be a bit weaker. Um, Having Intimidate just eat you alive is going to be pretty nasty for Palafin. I don't think there's enough great offense with this off the bat. However, I do like the team. I think the speeds are good. 2 Trick Room options. I don't like the Tailwind option being Flamigo, but you do have a good amount of speed as well as a lot of priority, and Jolteon can just throw out Electro Webs. Or Thunder Waves if it wants. I want to shout out how smart it was for Corrosion to pick up Wheezing in this back of the draft. There are a lot of the Pokemon on this team that do not care about their ability at all. Jolteon hardly has an ability. Hisuian Gudra doesn't frequently need its ability. Gardevoir doesn't need its ability. Mamoswine often runs Oblivious, so if you don't have Intimidate because of Wheezing, who cares? Intimidate from Incineroar. Once that hits the field, it's intimidated, and then Wheezing can hit the field. Or you can run Ability Shield. Sinistcha uses Hospitality. You can even abuse that with Neutralizing Gas to Hospitality, like, after Wheezing switches out. Or, I forget when it activates. Palafin, once it goes through 0 to Hero, it doesn't have an ability. A lot of these Pokemon do not need their ability. So I think this is a very strong choice. It's going to be tough getting through this team. Again, I do wish this team had a bit of a better Fairy matchup. But other than that, it looks pretty solid, pretty strong, and I know Corrosion is going to be able to build out some wacky sets and has great support Pokemon to bolster the offenses that aren't there immediately. Corrosion going to put in the A tier. Big Oog, formerly known as Ivan. This is... oh, wow. This is a Chup Across Paradise. Holy cow. So let's talk about this. A lot of people are saying that Dondozo and Tatsugiri are bad in Draft League. I'm not an experienced draft player, so don't take my word for it, but at a glance, in my eyes, it's still very good. And not having Terra is definitely not good for it. However, that also applies to the opponent. And, on top of that, if you play against this team, every week you have to prep against Dondozo. You have to bring a Haze user or a Clear Smog user or something that can just blow Dondozo out of the water, right? So, you load up, you hit Team Preview. Uh-oh, I didn't bring Dondozo. Uh-oh, I brought things that don't need Dondozo and can destroy the whole rest of your team, right? I think actually Baxcalibur is no longer on this team. Let me take a look. Miraidon transactions. Miraidon transactions. Chandelure and Grafaiai. So let's change that. Chandelure and Grafaiai. Interesting. Interesting changes. Notably because there's no dragon on the team anymore. Tatsugiri doesn't count. Um, you now have a better Trick Room option than you had with Meowscarada. You have a Prankster user. It's alright. I liked Baxcalibur, though. I think Baxcalibur was strong, and next to Alolan Ninetales, that thing probably was just never going to go down. You could even use Ice Body with it. So I'm not sure how I feel about those changes. However, I do think Dondozo Tatsugiri is very good. The Common Haze users are not many, and there's so much offense on this team. Like Hisuian Arcanine, Meowscarada, those are Pokemon that are fast and hit hard. Um, so like my issue, however, going on is that some of this is abusable. Meowscarada weak to just U-turning. Hisuian Arcanine 4 times weak to water and ground is really bad, and without having Terra, that's iffy. That's not great. You don't really need a follow me user on this team, because you're strategizing around Dondozo Tatsugiri. There's no great setup on this team other than Ribombee, which is very easily walled due to its typing and not having Terra. So at first I was leaning toward A, possibly even an S. But looking at this more and more, outside of Dozogiri, there's some strong Pokemon, but they just don't meld well together. This is going to go in a low B for me. Next is Rockwell. Someone whose draft I severely underrated last time. This time I will not underrate his draft. However, I will say there are some big problems with it. Number one is how many 4 times weeks are on this team. You have Kommo-o 4 times weak to Fairy, Gyarados 4 times weak to Electric, Abomasnow 4 times weak to Fire, Yanmega 4 times weak to Rock, and Frostmoth 4 times weak to the past 2, Fire and Rock. A team that's going to be, kind of in danger of super effective moves a lot. Grimmsnarl does come in there very well. And I think Oranguru sets the stage for what wants to be Ursaluna's best friend, with that telepathy and just spamming Earthquake or Facade, and being able to do it again. That will mean that Oranguru would have to be slower than Ursaluna, so something that might be able to be abused. On top of that, just not a super duper bulky team. Abomasnow and Grimmsnarl can handle that. But again, I think these 4 times weaknesses are something that are going to be tough for Rockwell to play with. And also going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting with that Ursaluna. Kommo without Terra is gonna suck. I feel badly for Rockwell having Kommo, because I had it last season, and if I couldn't Terra it, it was like, wow, I just lose. And sometimes I would Terra, and it was like, wow, I wish I had a different Terra right now. But yeah, I mean, these Pokemon are solid. Ursaluna, Gyarados. Gyarados is one of those ones where it's so unfortunate. I wanted Gyarados, and then not having Terra limits its Terra Blast usage. So, like, if you wanted to go for a Dragon Dance sweeping Gyarados, it can't use a flying move. I mean, you can use Bounce, but have fun bouncing into a Protect. It does get, like, Temper Flare, so it can hit Grass types with a Fire move, but it's just not going to cut it for the damage that it wants to get out. So Rockwell's going to have to do a lot of controlling the board state with... I mean, he does have some great control options here. But I do think the rest of the team is a bit weak and exploitable. Just on the strength of the Pokemon, I would put it in B. But it's going to be an uphill battle. for Rockwell. Here comes Curry Puff's team. This is a team. How do you even rate this? This is a Smeargle team, man. Got Smeargle Muck. Got Smeargle Annihilate. Who knows what's gonna happen? Let's ignore Smeargle for a sec. Let's pretend it's not here. Annihilate, very good. Metagross, disgustingly good. I had it last season. It was a powerhouse. Alolan Muck, decent. Whimsicott, great Pokemon. You are not stopping it from doing what it wants. It's going to set Tailwind, and for this team, you can even set Sun for Charizard and start throwing out Solar Power, Fire moves. Disgusting. Gastrodon, you're not hitting Charizard. Pillybolt, neat little Pokemon. Has some good bulk, can do some support with like Electro Web, and it's fat. It doesn't really die. It gets Slack Off, and it can also Sucker Punch. Hisuian Zoroark, another Pokemon I had last season. It's going to be tricky on lead. You might see a Whimsicott, you might see a Charizard, you might see a Metagross. There's a lot of Pokemon that don't reveal their abilities right away, and you're going to have to call if it's Hisuian Zoroark. Stantler and Flygon, honestly, I don't really care about. I'm looking at this, and this as very good Pokemon. You also have beat up Whimsicott with Annihilate. Beware. And then Smeargle, that who knows what it's going to do. So at first I kind of passed this off as like a meme with Smeargle and Alolan Muck minimized. But this team has a lot more to offer than it would initially appear. As well as decorate Smeargle with like Assault Vest Metagross or something. I don't want to play against that. That's just going to destroy everything. Like, you can just run max speed Metagross. Like, max speed, max HP Metagross. It won't die, and it's going to KO everything on your team. Very fast. Especially with Whimsicott next to it. This team has so many unexpected things it can do. Defensively, not fantastic. But I think it'll get the job done. Originally this was a write-off for me, but I think I have to put it in the A tier. It all depends on how Curry preps every single week. This team can be scary. Alright, next up is Stout Gaming. My week 1 opponent, actually. Tyranitar, Indeedee Female, Driftblim, Hariyama, Delphox, Hatterene, Rotom-Moo, Milotic, Houndstone, Haxorus, Revavroom. Alright, so solid Psy Spam with Indeedee Delphox Hat. Fantastic redirection in Hatterene. Hariyama, a great Trick Room Pokemon. You have some good Trick Room abusers here. You have Tyranitar, you have Hariyama, you have Hatterene. And then you have out of Trick Room options. You have Driftblim with Unburdened Tailwind. That's good in and of itself. And if you want to intimidate Tyranitar or Hariyama, Milotic's here. Scary. Overall, this team is... I think it's a lot of what you see is what you get, which is good and bad. Sorry I'm not discussing this one super in depth. I just don't see a lot of depth to it. Or rather, I kind of touched on it all already. This is a Trick Room team, mainly, but it can function out of Trick Room. People are going to have to work hard to deal with Psy Spam, except for me, because I have Rillaboom. That's why I drafted it first pick. It's a no-nonsense Pokemon. I do also think... what was I thinking at one point? Like a Dark type can do this team in pretty well, but Hariyama's there to just be there and smash your head with a good old close combat. And if you want to Snarl, you also have to deal with Milotic, so I think that's very smart. And drafting 3 psychic types and a fairy type with Tyranitar also helps it out a lot because the fighting types that want to prey on it are not going to be as free to just do that. So I dig this. I definitely dig this. Something about it just feels a little bit weak. I don't know why. Can't explain it. B tier. Last but not least, sorry if I'm rushing. I just I have less and less to say every time. This team. Spoilers. Our last S tier goes to Keon. I'll mention it because I've mentioned it with every team. There are 4 4X weeks on this team. Torterra with Ice, Glamora with Ground, Scizor with Fire, and Salamence with Ice. But I think this team can weather the storm that it sets for itself. You have Politoed, Ludicolo, and Salamence. These 3 Pokemon in and of themselves are ridiculous. Like, good luck getting through the onslaught that these Pokemon are putting through. If you want to try to Tailwind past them, like, Politoed, Ludicolo might outspeed you, and Salamence can just set up Tailwind. You want to put a Grass type in front of the Politoed and Ludicolo, well, Salamence is just going to Hurricane you. Like, enjoy. And Gengar can just Sludge Bomb you. And Scizor is just going to eat you with Bug Bite. Like, he uncovered that weakness very quickly. You can't play the slow game because Glamor is there. You want to set up Trick Room? Good luck. It can be an Indeedee that reverses it or imprisons it, a Gallade that can reverse it, or just destroy you with Indeedee Gallade with Psycho Cut. Like, damn, this is strong. Gengar, a Pokemon that's normally susceptible to something like Sucker Punch, has Indeedee next to it. You can't get through there. Alchemy, if it wants to set up Trick Room, can start decorating things. Or it can just move faster than something like Scizor and decorate it. Or it can sit next to Ludicolo. Ludicolo, click Fake Out. Alchemy, decorate Ludicolo. Politoed, switch in. Ludicolo, kill everything. This team has a lot of cool options. You could even run a Trick Room version of the team with Politoed and Rain Dish Ludicolo and slow things down while also having the offensive prowess. This team offensively is very strong. Defensively, it's very strong. I really like this team. It doesn't need rain to thrive. Salamence can set up with Dragon Dance. Magmortar is a follow me user that can also hit hard. This team has a lot. I was making fun of Keon initially because he was finding all the value picks, and then as things came together, I realized that this team is gross. Has a lot of options. It's not like it's weak to Intimidate spam. An Assault Vest can get you somewhere, but it also has extremely hard-hitting physical attackers in Gallade, Scizor, and Salamence. And if you ignore Torterra, it can set up a Shell Smash. So yeah. Not going to get too into the nitty-gritty of all of these. I know this is a quick one for me. Comparatively to my other videos, it's 53 minutes. It's not short at all, but I know I get faster along the end because I just want to get it done. So we have a lot more balance toward the A and the B tiers, as I think we did last season. And then I just think these 3 teams have a lot to work for. Again, I think Padrig's team is going to be easy to prep against, but if a person doesn't have what they need, it's going to be tough. Ottawa Oshawots and Beantown Binacles, they just fall behind a little bit. These 2 are the best teams in the league. Ironically, they both have rain setters, but they're not rain teams, and that's what I think makes them so strong. The rest of us here are going to have to do a lot of work to beat these 2, but I think we can do it. So yeah, there's the Miraidon division. Hopefully tomorrow I will have something for the Koraidon division, and I'll see you guys next time.